Hello, I'm Scotty Smith.
And I'm Chris City.
Welcome to Couchside Cinema. Every other weekend, we dive into blockbuster hits to hidden gems to everything in between. We share our takes and help you hopefully discover your next favorite watch. So get comfy, and let's get on with the show. Today we talk about The Pagemaster, 1994, starring Macaulay Culkin, Christopher Lloyd, Patrick Stewart, Whoopi Goldberg, Frank Welker, and more. A timid boy seeks shelter in a library during a storm, and is transported into an animated world of books. Guided by three talking volumes, adventure, fantasy, and horror, he journeys through classic literature tales, facing dangers and overcoming his fears, ultimately discovering courage and imagination. Chris, initial reactions, like, dislike, like, what was your thought?
I love this movie. This movie really brought me back to my childhood. I remember seeing this with my brothers growing up, and the first time I saw it kind of scared me as a kid, but it was a really fun movie to watch because it really opened up your imagination to books and getting lost in the world of fantasy, horror, and adventure, and all around just good books to read.
I agree with you. I remember as a kid watching this movie and just really enjoying it a lot. It was one of those weird animated movies that it reminded me of like it made me think of like Rockadoodle a little bit. It made me think of like a few like Don Bluth movies.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of in that vein, like just kind of odd, kind of bizarre, but it really is interesting. I enjoyed revisiting this because I hadn't seen the movie in so long. It's been God knows. You said like what 20 years since you've watched it. 20
Give or take, yeah.
give or take. So it's been a long time for you. So for me, this was a long time coming for sure. 20 plus years probably where I hadn't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember as a kid like watching it?
I mean, I remember, as I said, watching it with my brothers, and it was, uh, it was a lot of fun, funny. I thought it was, funny, scary, suspenseful, and really just great storytelling between real life and cartoons. Like it was the first movie I think I ever saw where it was a crossover of live action and cartoons.
I remember just like I just remember having like a bunch of movies that I specifically watched, and one of them was The Pagemaster,
Mm-hmm.
and I just remember watching it like a bunch of times. And it was funny as we were watching it, the previews for it had previews for the Power Rangers movie,
Yeah.
which threw me off because I forgot that they were in there, and it was like basically a little sneak peek of like the making of like the Power Rangers movie,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, wait a second, this was like throwing me off. We watched it on the VHS copy, and it was just real fun just to like revisit that and just go through that. Um, what was your opinion on like acting and like characters and everything like that?
I thought the characters and the voice actors were great. From Christopher Lloyd doing the voice actor for the librarian to the page master, to you had Leonard Nimoy in there as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, to Whoopi Goldberg as fantasy, Frank Welker as horror,
Yeah.
and Patrick Stewart doing adventure, and
Wh-
Macaulay Culkin. I think it was a really great cast.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. I honestly, if you wouldn't have told me that Patrick Stewart was voicing Adventure, I would not have known that it was him because it truly like his voice like truly sounded so different
Mm-hmm.
from what you normally like his speech pattern that it threw me off a bit.
Yeah.
It truly like threw me off. And then Frank Welker is in there, which Frank Welker, best known for voicing Fred Jones from Scooby Doo and everything.
Mm-hmm.
He still to this day does it. I think the man's like in his like 70s or in his like 80s
Yeah.
or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the dude just is a great voice actor and everything. And then there's Whoopi Goldberg in there, which is weird because she's not in a lot of like animated movies or
No.
anything. But she's done like a little bit here and there.
She did more live action, I
She
think.
did
Too.
more live action stuff, yeah. So and then Macaulay Culkin, best known from Home Alone and everything like that. In
That
here.
was the first movie I ever saw him in.
First movie you ever saw him in?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I think for me the first movie I ever saw him in was it might have been Uncle Buck.
Oh, he was an Uncle Buck,
He
wasn't
was
he?
an Uncle Buck. Yeah, he was a little kid who
Yeah.
was like questioning him. He was just like, who are you? Like this or that. And he was like had all these like different questions.
Yes.
Um,
I think the first movie I ever saw him in was Uncle Buck. And the second movie I saw him in was The Pagemaster.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Home Alone, of course, around Christmas time and everything like that, that was a big thing. The acting in this I thought was really good. Christopher Lloyd being in here I thought was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Lloyd plays a very, like, kooky, I will say it was kind of weird because he creeps up on the kid and he's kind of just like, you're in here for adventure, horror, fantasy. And he's like doing this whole thing. And you're kind of sitting back here and you're just like, who is this? He looks at him, he's just like, well. And he's just like, and then he starts talking to him. And it's just kind of weird how he's just like in this library by himself. And it's like, sir, I'm just here because of the weather and everything. And he's just like, oh, so you're not here for the, and he's like, no. And he's like, oh, okay then.
Well, and it also makes you think too, is that how many people go to libraries these days?
Yeah,
everything's on a Kindle or online. That who really, I guess, experience of walking into a library and going into the fantasy or horror or adventure section and checking out a book.
Libraries for me have always been like, I've always found libraries like really calming, like really like cool places, like, to go to. Like anytime I go to a library, I'm always just like, it's weird, but like legit, anytime I go to a library, I'm at the most peaceful point in my existence.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm legit like so pieced out.
Yeah.
Pieced out. But it's the truth, like, and a library, like always, like, never a bookstore, but a library. Like, anytime I've gone to a library, it's like, it's, because it's so quiet, it's so peaceful.
Yep.
There's like the kids section, there's the adult section, there's fantasy, there's horror, there's,
I mean, and as you see
adventure.
in this movie, he's trying to conquer his fear of adventure and horror and all that, and learn how to have adventure and not live in safety all the time. But also, it's a throwback to some of the old classic literature of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, to Treasure Island. That it's even fantasy, and to dragons and all that, and it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. Definitely. For me, like, like revisiting this, like, it was definitely interesting. When it comes to the story, we've already kind of gone over that. I think the story is like pretty well done.
Mm-hmm.
Like for it's a family movie, so it's very simple. It's not like it's not gonna make you rethink life or anything.
Right.
But it's just it's just about this kid who is very timid and afraid of everything, and he learns to break free of that, and kind of look into adventure, look into horror, look into fantasy, look into all these different things. And kind of look past the statistics of things. Right. And, I think it's a good lesson for, like, kids, because, like, I mean, mind you, I don't know of any kids that are like that, like into statistics and everything.
No.
But at the same time, I could see like an adult, from adult perspective, like a lot of like people like being very like kind of like anal about certain,
right.
things.
And we all face, fear, but we also have to learn to have an adventure, go out and have some adventure, and have some fun, and pick up a good book and read a good book, because again, the smell of a good book and just learning to read a book is great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great books out there to read.
No, exactly. I wish honestly that I was more of a reader.
Right.
Like I don't read as many books as like I should, honestly, because like there's part of me that sits back and I'm into like comics. I'm into like graphic novels and things like that. Did it make you want to read those other stories?
Oh yeah.
So it did its job.
It did its job perfectly, because I remember wanting to go to the library, but I didn't really know a lot of these books because I didn't. I knew Frankenstein and Cinderella and all that, but I didn't really know Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde or Moby Dick, or, I knew Treasure Island, and I actually went back and I think I attempted to read a very short story of Treasure Island as a kid. I think the abridged version of it, and that was a lot of fun. But I still want to read some of the others, like Frankenstein or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think those, to go back and revisit some of those classics, I think would be great.
Oh yeah, no, it made me want to like look into those also because there's such like fun stories, and there's so many possibilities with it. Visually, I think visual wise, the movie is like it's very well done because nowadays everything is 3D animation, and there's no more 2D animation. If you do see 2D, it's very limited. You don't see a lot of it. It's very like if it is used in 2D, which I've seen a few films use 2D art styles and stuff like that with it. It's very limited in what they do with it. What they actually try to like say with it, and which I think is sad because like I think 2D animated films, which I could go on conversation about this long like time is 2D animated films are like like just as good as 3D animated films.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's just sad. It's a sad art form that isn't used a whole lot. It's more for like TV now and everything, that people use 2D for.
Right.
And it's just like, I wish that people, did more with it because the film is pretty. It's pretty to watch, pretty to look at, everything like that.
And so. I think too, it's nostalgia for me to watch this movie because, as I said, it was one I watched many times growing up, but also to see through the years how animation has changed in movies.
I understand that. The music of the film. I think the music was like pretty. It was memorable.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I like when I heard like the first like bit of it like at the beginning. I was like, oh yeah, I know this. I know this pretty well.
That's another thing with the music too is that you don't really hear music like this in.
It's not as memorable.
It's not as memorable.
It's just not. That's one thing that I've noticed about a lot of these like films, like family films, like nowadays, is that you don't really have a lot of soundtracks that are like super memorable.
No,
but I definitely say the soundtrack is definitely pretty memorable. Like watching it, like hearing like the music, I'm like, oh yeah, this is Pagemaster.
Right.
Like this is like the Pagemaster. It just works. But yeah, a lot of movies nowadays. There are a few movies I will say that like like have like certain themes. Certain like theme, like music and everything like that works really well. That you hear it and you're like, oh yeah, I instantly know that's so and so movie.
Well, and this movie too was very. It goes back to my childhood a little bit, but also when you think about it, this was a movie that again was intended for families, but also it wasn't trying to really. Drive home any points other than to pick up a good book and read it.
What would be your overall like score? Like how many? Let me think of the thing. How many Macaulay Culkins would you rate this?
How many Macaulay Culkins? I was about to say if you ask how many pages, that's the wrong question to ask.
No. How many Macaulay Culkins would you rate this out of 10?
Out of 10?
Yeah.
Probably a good solid, probably 7.5, 8.
7.5, 8.
Yeah. It's a great film. I mean,
it's good. It's fun. I'd say for me, one things that I wish that the film had more is that I wish it had more time to develop like these stories.
Yeah.
A bit more because they kind of like come and go. Like pretty quickly, because the film's only like an hour and like
because they jump from story to story.
They jump from
so
story to story so you don't really have a lot of time to really connect as much.
Right.
So I would say if I was to rate this, I would give it, mind you, my nostalgia goggles are on because I watched this as a kid. So, I would say I'd rate it a 7.5.
7.5.
7.5. Yeah, I'd rate it 7.5. Like it's a good time. I think it's definitely one of those films that you watch and it's like one of those movies that you just have to like have next to like your other movies, like in your collection. You just have to have it, next to like the other ones, so you can like rewatch it and stuff like that. Would you rewatch this again?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Like I said before, this was one that every time I watch it, it's like nostalgia for me because it's, I think back to my childhood and just being able to go into yes, we had them back then, a movie gallery or a Blockbuster or the Food City movie rental place and being able to pick up a VHS off the shelf and being able to you're like, I want to rent this. I want to watch this and being able to rent it.
That's crazy. I remember going to like the rental, like there was an Ingles, and it had like a rental like movie area, and it didn't have VHS tapes, but it had DVDs and everything like that. I just remember going there.
And the movies, like I said, these movies back then, and Pagemaster was at the top of my list. There were several other kid movies, but this was one thing I miss about movies back then that they don't have today, was the animation and the funny charisma cartoon style, and the it was really planted to really draw on your imagination.
Yeah, exactly. Like you really don't see a lot of like family movies like this, really. Which I wish there were. I wish they would like kind of like go back to the drawing board and kind of like make more movies like kind of like that, you know. Because I don't know, like I'm looking at like movies from like my childhood, and I don't know if it's just a bias thing, but I feel like we had like better movies.
Right.
Like mind you, there are some that there are new ones that come out that come from come out of the cracks, that are like good, that are really good, that kind of like become like nostalgic, like over time and everything like that. But then other ones kind of they don't really sink in as much. They don't really stick with you as much.
Yeah.
And it could just be like my nostalgia goggles, just like being on and everything, and like being like young and revisiting stuff. But it's just that's just how it is,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great, like I said, it's a great movie. I do think it was a great cast with Macaulay Culkin, Christopher Lloyd, Frank Welker, Whoopi Goldberg, and Patrick Stewart, and Leonard Nimoy.
And then some other people in there as well in the mix. They have what's his name, who voices Pete in he voiced Long John Silver.
Jim Cummings did Long John Silver.
Jim Cummings, that's something about Jim Cummings.
If I had thought of Winnie the Pooh, I would have.
Yeah, because he's Winnie the Pooh too. Yeah, he's Winnie the Pooh as well.
I forgot he voiced Long John Silver in this as well.
Yeah, no, Jim Cummings, also another great voice actor that I love and things. Anytime I hear his voice, I'm like, oh, you just know it's gonna be good because it has the cast like that in there. But yeah, no, Pagemaster, definitely, I'd recommend this to anyone, really, anyone for, like, a nostalgia trip, something going back, and, just, like, anyone who, wants to find, like, a pretty good, like, family film to watch with, like, your kids and everything like that, I'd recommend it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, if you want a good comedy family film, I think this would be a good one to pull off.
It'd be a good one. It'd be a good one, for sure. For sure. But I think... Well, I think we've come to the end, Chris.
Yes, I think so too. Thanks for hanging out with us on Couchside Cinema. I'm Chris Pacitti.
And I'm Scotty Smith.
And we'll be back every other weekend with more movies and more conversations. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with a fellow film fan. Until next time, stay comfy, stay watching, and we'll see you on the couch.